So in this week's episode of my travel diary series, I'll be covering the next 2 days of my trip in Japan. Well, sort of. So one of these days was actually just spent driving from the Fukui prefecture to Yokohama. Now the drive from Fukui to Yokohama takes about 6.5 to 7 hours. So on the drive from Fukui to Yokohama, I didn't really do any filming. And this is because whenever I get in a car to go anywhere, I fall asleep very quickly for some reason. And by the time that we got to Yokohama, it was pretty late, so we didn't really decide to do much, we just had an early night. So the day after the drive, we went to the Hakkeijima Sea Paradise aquarium. Now when we arrived at the Hakkeijima Sea Paradise, one of the first things that we saw was this map of the area. So Hakkeijima is quite big, and it's not just an aquarium, it also has like a mini theme park attached to it as well. So I believe you have to get 2 separate tickets, one for the aquarium and then the other would be for the theme park side of things. Now the only entrance to Hakkeijima Sea Paradise is over this bridge, and from this bridge it was pretty easy to see just how large Hakkeijima is. So as I mentioned, Hakkeijima isn't just an aquarium, it's also a theme park, there's a lot of restaurants there, and there's also an area set up where you can go fishing to catch your own lunch, which would then be cooked in one of the nearby restaurants. Now, I wasn't too sure exactly how long it would take us to see everything at the aquarium side of things, but my wife said it was quite a large aquarium, so we decided to just go for the aquarium tickets and give the theme park side of things a miss for today. Now, this was actually a good choice because we definitely would not have had enough time in one day to do everything. Now, before reaching the aquarium, there are a lot of aquarium-themed ice cream stands and stuff like that that were very tempting. So after getting our tickets, we headed on in. Also, the ticket prices were about $50 per adult, which was pretty reasonable compared to other aquariums that I've been to. So as you enter the aquarium, there's a few tanks set up that have various small fish inside them. Now, I'm not too sure what these worm-like fish that stick their heads out of the sand are called, but I do enjoy seeing them at aquariums. There's a lot of vibrant coloured fish in these small tanks, many of which, whenever I see them, they always tend to remind me of Finding Nemo, like the clownfish and this dory fish. I'm not too sure what they're actually called. Now, looking back on my footage, I didn't realise just how little of the aquarium grounds that I had filmed, such as the crowds and everything like that. I mostly just stuck to filming the animals inside of the tanks. Now, this aquarium was very popular, so there was a lot of people there, and the lighting was very dark in a lot of these bigger rooms with the bigger tanks, so it was a bit hard to film in there anyway. So as we headed past these small fish tanks and further into the aquarium, the tanks themselves did get a lot bigger. Because of the poor lighting, I didn't really film too much in this next room because it was very dark. Now, this probably did end up to be a good thing because my battery definitely would not have lasted me the whole day. So in these bigger tanks, the first fish that we saw was these koa salmon. There was also another enclosure with seals, which I feel like I could have watched them swim around for so long. As well as the penguins, they're always quite funny to watch. Now the tanks here that had the seals and the penguins in them, they kind of seemed more like secondary enclosures for them. So a little bit further into the aquarium there were more enclosures with penguins and seals inside them that seemed more like the main enclosures. Now, one of my favourite things that I saw at the aquarium on this day was probably the polar bear. I really like seeing how its fur flows as it swims through the water. He just looks so big and cuddly. Now, it was actually almost like he had OCD though. He kept swimming back and forth through the tank in the exact same pattern, kicking off the rocks on one side, then swimming across and kicking off the window on the other side to some more rocks where he would jump off again and swim back to the other side of the tank, where he would kick off the rocks again and swim over to the other side of the enclosure and kick off the glass back to where he started. And he pretty much did this the entire time that we were there. just next to the polar bear, there was a walrus enclosure, and these guys were just huge. To think that they can easily weigh upwards of a ton is just crazy. So in the next room, just past the walrus and the polar bear, is the actual main penguin enclosure. Now, if I remember correctly, I think there was about 3 different breeds of penguins in here. I really enjoy watching them swim around. They make it look so easy. Now, there was this one poor little guy that was just walking back and forth on these rocks, and he was just watching all of his friends jumping in and out of the water. It's like he was trying to find an ideal spot to jump from, but he didn't quite have the confidence to do it. We must have watched him for about 5 to 10 minutes just walking back and forth before he finally managed to jump in, which I unfortunately missed on camera. Now, just past the penguins, there was a big ocean tank that had a lot of sharks and other various fish and stingrays swimming around inside. They had a list on the side of all of the different sharks that are found inside. Now, I was pretty surprised to see hammerheads inside, mainly because we don't have them at the Melbourne Aquarium. There was one point where we did have some babies there for a short time, but that was only while they were just growing up. I really enjoy looking at these big tanks. It's always relaxing to see all of the different sea life just swimming around peacefully together. Now there's also an escalator that goes up to the second floor through this big tank as well. The lighting in the room really made it feel like you were underwater. And as soon as you get upstairs, just to the right, one of the first things there is this big tank filled with a lot of bigger sharks. And this tank was very dark as well, which kind of made it look pretty scary, and I definitely would not want to be in there with these guys. So just past this viewing spot for the sharks, there was this big open fish enclosure, which also had some smaller tanks in the area. And these seahorse were just so cute. These are another fish that I do really like. I mean, seahorse are a fish, right? Now I'm not exactly sure what these are, but they kind of look like they might be some sort of breed of seahorse, I'm guessing. There was also this slightly bigger tank in the area that had a couple of sleeping octopus inside. Octopus are probably my favorite sea creature. Now, the lighting in this open enclosure was quite harsh to film in. However, I didn't really mind because I'm not too much of a fan of these open enclosures that kind of encourage touching the fish. So just around the corner, there was another area that had many different tanks, all with very different variety of fish, such as these eels, well as these moray eels in this big tank, which all seem to pretty much just stick together. And there was quite a lot of other fish in this same tank as well. Now, just past the eels, there was a few more tanks in this area showing a large variety of sea life found in different depths. There was also a few really small tanks in the area as well. Now, I've never actually seen a crab like this before. I was hoping that it would turn around because I really wanted to see what its face looked like, but unfortunately it didn't move at all. There was also this hermit crab which seemed pretty big, and he looked real fancy with his shell having 2 of these sea anemones on it. But these Japanese spider crabs were absolutely massive. Now, these crabs are actually so big that they can't actually support their own body weight outside of water. There was actually such a large variety of sea life in this one area, and by this point, we were still really only at the beginning of the aquarium. And this took us back to the other side of that viewing window from where we saw these sharks. And this tank did look a lot darker from this side. Just past these sharks, we ended up back in the room with the big ocean tank that had all the sharks and stingrays and fish swimming around. But this time from the second floor. I really enjoy watching all of the fish swim around in here. And the rays in here were actually really big. I like the way the smaller fish just move around the bigger ones as they swim past. In this upstairs room on the opposite side of this big tank, there was an area set up that had a lot of different variety of jellyfish inside. I remember once thinking it would be cool to have a pet jellyfish. They just seem to float around without a care in the world. But I mean, if I was to have a pet jellyfish, I would definitely want it to be one of these big ones. Or a tank like this that's just filled with a lot of small jellyfish floating around together. There was also a couple of smaller tanks filled with a lot of very small jellyfish inside. So at this point, the first of the aquarium shows was about to start, so we started heading over to the location of that show. On the way, there was a few more of the smaller tanks that had more of the tropical fish inside, and the lighting in this room was much better than the previous areas for filming. So the first show at the aquarium was the dolphin show. Now you could actually see over the side the trainers preparing for the show as well. Now, like the rookie that I am, I completely forgot to hit the record button on my phone at the start of the show. So I was holding it, the camera was there, and I was seeing everything, but I actually was not filming for the first couple of minutes. So I completely missed the start of the walrus portion of the show where it was actually doing crunches and showing off its muscles, which was unfortunate because it was really funny and I was definitely just a bit too invested in watching the walrus than actually filming. But luckily I learned from this mistake and I didn't miss anything of the beluga whales. The beluga whales were definitely my favourite part of the show. It always amazes me how they can train these majestic looking animals to do the things that they do. I mean, I can't even get my cat to stop waking me up at 6 o'clock in the morning for food. After the beluga whale portion of the show was the dolphins. Pretty crazy to see just how far out of the water these dolphins can jump. Now, the dolphins were clearly much quicker and way more energetic than beluga whale. Now, after the show ended, from the dolphin show area, there was actually a really good view of the rest of Hakkeijima Sea Paradise, as well as that viewing area from before where the dolphins were just playing around after the show. Now, also from the side here, where the main show was, there was actually the trainers doing some rounds with the dolphins as well, for a little post-show training that we got to see. So after the dolphin show, we headed past this large open enclosure. So this area also had a fairly large variety of sea life inside, including a couple of sea turtles. This one actually got stuck in this corner for a little bit because he couldn't quite figure out how to reverse. And just next to this enclosure as well, there was a way outside, which this enclosure was also visible from the outside. Now, in this outside area, there was also a few unexpected animals that I didn't think that we would actually see at the aquarium. A couple of which are some of my personal favorites, such as these otter. And for a while, my wife and I were wondering why this one just kept running up and down this same path over and over again. But we found out a little bit later that it was actually just because it was getting really close to feeding time, which we were also lucky enough to see. I really enjoy watching otter eat. I like that they kind of use their hands just like people. Now, I'm not too sure why, but the one that was darting back and forth earlier was actually fed in his own enclosure, separate from the others. Some of the other animals to see in this open area was these couple of tortoise, which this one here looked like he was just trying to make a break for it the whole time. There was also quite a few flamingo, which pretty much just sat there cleaning themselves the whole time. And there was also a few of these mara. These little guys look like they're a mix between a rabbit and a deer, which, to be honest, this was actually the first time I'd ever seen these before. They did also have a variety of fish in this area as well, such as these ones, which you can actually put your hands inside so they can eat the dead skin, which I'd actually done before in the past with my feet, but never with my hands. They did feel very soft afterwards. They also had piranha. They also had some of these other fish, which I'm not entirely sure what are, but there was also a couple of big catfish. And I do apologize that you can see my reflection in these shots. The tanks here were quite dark, so it was pretty easy to see the reflection, unfortunately. Now, I'm not too sure what these are, but they kind of look like mini meerkats in a way, but they were very cute. Especially this one at the back. He tried so hard and for so long to break out.
Did you see that? Oh, okay, give up.
Can he do it? Can he do it? No.
And there was also this one on the opposite side who was trying to tunnel out instead. Now, the animal here that was the most unexpected for me to see was the red panda. Now, the red panda is actually my #1 favorite animal of all time. Although these guys didn't really get up to too much because their main enclosure was being cleaned at the time. I think there was about 4 of them in total though. So after the aquarium, we headed back outside to this dolphin fantasy area. Now this tank is actually much larger than it looks from the inside here. It was really cool to be able to see the dolphin up close like this. Now past this dolphin area, there were more tanks inside. However, we weren't actually allowed to film inside at the time. So there's a big tank in the middle of this round room. Now inside this tank there's usually a big ocean sunfish. However, the sunfish was moved somewhere else because there was a shark that was quite sick. So they were using this tank to try and nurse the shark back to health. And there was someone in the tank with the shark the whole time, just trying to get it to start moving again. Now I'm not too sure what happened in the end, but I do hope that the person that was in there was able to nurse the shark back to health. So after the dolphin paradise area, we headed out and towards the back end for the next show that was about to start. Now on the way there was a lot of nice looking food, however the show was about to start so we had to give all that a miss. Now at the entrance to where this show area was, there was a few birds actually, such as this macaw parrot, an owl, and also a hawk. And there was also a few big tortoise that were let to roam free in the area as well.
Oh, you're so sorry.
So it was now time for the last show of the day, so we headed on in. And it was then that we found out that the birds from earlier were actually going to be part of this show. Now this macaw parrot was pretty smart. Now this show was a lot different to the dolphin show, and it was actually a lot more interactive with the crowd as well, such as this little girl who was picked out of the crowd to call in some friends. And afterwards she also helped call them out off the stage as well. And some of the people from the crowd were also picked to hold these stands, so the owl could fly between them. And then when they called out this cute little otter, they picked out some people from the crowd to hold spoons with food in them, and then the otter would go to those people to get the food. And the final part of this show was the big sea lion. Now this sea lion was actually really clever as well. I think it'll always amaze me how these animals are able to learn the things that they do. And the portion with the sea lion also had some interaction with the crowd. So they picked a couple of kids and an adult from the crowd to throw these hoops to the sea lion, which the sea lion would catch around his neck. And the last one was thrown from the back of the crowd, and then afterwards the sea lion gave him a big thank you at the end of the show. Seeing this really did make me wish that I put my hand up at this portion of the show, but I really did also want to film it as well, so it was a bit hard to pick which. Now there's also quite a few gift stores at Hakkeijima Sea Paradise, which had a lot of aquarium themed goodies inside, which I really did kind of want this beluga whale pillow. It was really cute and really soft. I really like these mugs as well, they're also really cute. In fact, everything in these gift stores were all just really cute, to be honest. So if you're into cute sea animal themed goodies, then you'll definitely like these gift stores. So that's it for this week's episode of my travel diary. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. It really was a fun day at the Hakkeijima Sea Paradise, and I highly recommend it if you do like aquariums. It was just such a fun day, and we got to see so many amazing animals. And we were easily able to make a whole day of it, and that's without even doing the theme park side of things. Now in the next episode of my travel diary, we'll be spending the day in Yokohama seeing a lot of amazing sights. So I hope you look forward to that, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.